Botswana is a country that defies all odds when it comes to development, and its money doesn't just come from diamond mining. Sure, 40% of their government funds come from that, but most of their stability comes from something entirely different. Botswana isn't like the typical African country, and the secret to its success will blow your mind. It's a story waiting to be told. While some of its neighboring countries are caught up in civil wars and coups, Botswana has been focusing on more important things ever since it gained its independence in 1966. And when you compare its living standards to places like Turkey, Mexico, and South Africa, you'll be pleasantly surprised. There's been some serious economic growth over the past 50 years, and the secret is good governance, which includes some of the best fiscal policies in the world. The government has been really smart about how it handles money, especially the revenue it gets from selling diamonds. They don't put all their eggs in one basket. Instead, they make plans every few years to help the country develop. These plans, called the National Development Plans, define the country's medium-term development goals and strategies. And right now, they're working with the 11th plan that started in April 2017. Not only that, but the government is also trying to follow policies that help businesses grow and move away from just relying on diamonds. All this helps them keep their budget in check, which helps keep their economy stable and attractive to foreign investors. Most important of all, Botswana's heads of state have been from the same family tree for over a century. Have you ever heard of Gregory Clark and his take on social mobility? He argues in The Sun Also Rises that the whole meritocracy thing might be a bit of a myth. He says social mobility is pretty consistent across the board and maybe not as high as we'd like to believe. So whether power stays in the family because of merit or something else, it shows that having systems that help the elites work together is key. Botswana's also got a good way of handling power changes that protects it from a lot of the drama we see in the West. Usually, when a leader steps down, there's a big question mark about who's next. But in Botswana, the previous head of state says who should take over publicly. Now, a lot of other countries have power struggles when leaders change, from coups to civil wars, which aren't good for the country. But it's not like that in Botswana. Back in the day, they stayed in the good graces of the West and played their cards right during the Cold War. This kept them out of all the trouble that other countries faced. While some places have leaders fighting each other for power, Botswana's elites actually get along and trust each other, which prevents military takeovers or coups. Remember Ian Khama? He was in the military but decided to step into civilian politics without causing a fuss. All this goes back to the colonial days when Botswana joined the British Empire on its own terms. This helped them keep their identity and power structures intact instead of being dictated by outsiders. Of course, smart political decisions also played a major role. The Botswana population is one big tribe called the Tswana, and having this unity means less chance of conflicts based on different ethnic groups. It's not perfect, but it's working better as compared to some other African countries where different groups clash. Ever read World on Fire by Amy Chua? She talks about conflicts between a big ethnic group and a rich minority, causing all sorts of trouble. Botswana managed to avoid that by making smart moves. For example, Seretse Khama led his country's independence movement by establishing the Botswana Democratic Party in 1962 and gained independence from British rule in 1966 with him as the first president. They also make money by dealing with big companies like De Beers. This helps them support their friends in politics and fund social programs. It's like how Saudi Arabia uses their oil company for support, which keeps the flow of money strong and keeps them in power. The leaders in Botswana are clearly making the right choices when it comes to politics and economics, especially when considering their cooperation with De Beers, which helps them maintain strong relationships with powerful Western countries. Speaking of relationships, show some love and subscribe to the channel so we can keep bringing you more insightful videos like this. And smash that like button and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future uploads. The leaders in Botswana work really hard to keep all the political power within one family. But President Seretse Khama took it one step further and married into the traditional royal family, which also helped keep the peace. You see, the white minority saw it as a commitment to ethnic harmony, which is a big deal considering how some other African leaders fanned the flames of ethnic tension for their own gain. As for good governance, Botswana leaders are also really big on making smart political moves that also bring in cash. Connecting the dots between family ties and strategic partnerships, like the one with De Beers, shows how they're not just playing politics, they're playing the long game for economic stability. They say no to short-term gains through ethnic conflict, and yes to a bright future for Botswana. And the interesting thing is that instead of the typical autocratic move of naming their successor, Botswana always has a smooth transition plan that involves military and civilian elites trusting each other. So you can forget about coups and any coup attempts for that matter. Plus, blending the formal government with tribal power structures ensures everyone's on the same page. Coming back to the money, De Beers is the major benefactor for Botswana's economy because the government also has part ownership, so financial interests are all aligned. Since gaining independence, the government has been working with them to tap into the country's abundant diamond reserves. This is very different from the not-so-great stories we often hear about other African nations dealing with their natural resources. You see, the money earned from selling diamonds has been put into important things like healthcare, education, and building roads that stretch across the country. This has also helped them save up foreign exchange reserves for rainy days, like when the world isn't so keen on buying diamonds. Sure, there are still some challenges, including high levels of poverty and difficulties in moving away from its dependence on diamonds, on top of the fact that it's a small landlocked country dealing with a serious HIV situation. Now, you'd think these things would be a recipe for disaster, but Botswana's way too smart for these things to affect their economy, hence the name, the African exception. As it turns out, the usual models for predicting a country's fate don't always consider the importance of who takes over the reins. Botswana's success is a lesson in how succession and deciding who's to come into power next can make or break a nation. This country isn't just surviving, it's thriving by making smart moves on the global stage, keeping the peace at home and playing the long game to protect its economy. The leaders in Botswana have been pulling the right moves at the right time, like in a strategic chess game where they've been moving the pieces perfectly. And the way they hand over the leadership baton to the next person is the biggest secret to their success. It's because of this kind of political stability that has helped this landlocked African country become one of the strongest economies in the world. It's not just luck. They've made sure that the need for political power matches up with making everyone richer. Plus, they've been really smart about using their resources and making sure the big shots trust each other. Now, why does this matter to the rest of the world? Well, if your country is having trouble with development, take a page out of Botswana's book. They've proved that you can still make it even when you have limited resources, and they've done it while having a political dynasty, which doesn't always work for most countries in the world. Before you start thinking, oh no, not another dynasty, consider this. Maybe, just maybe, having a family stick around in politics isn't a bad thing. So, as we're on this quest for better governance worldwide, let's not immediately dismiss the idea of political dynasties. Botswana's got to make you think otherwise. After all, they're doing great, so what's stopping other countries from following suit and doing the same? But what do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, share, and watch some of these videos to learn more.